Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever the case may be, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Another special edition of the Bill Crane Sports Report. A couple of weeks ago, I did one of these, and I covered the Celtics, the Bruins, and the Patriots. I never got to the Red Sox. So what you're going to see is 1 hour, more or less, of nothing but the Red Sox. And to celebrate Red Sox on the Bill Crane Report Day, I wore my 2004 World Series Red Sox commemorative cap. And it's when they finally broke the drought in 2004 and won the World Series. My sons gave this to me for my birthday, and I can tell you it's the first time I've ever worn it. It's been on the shelf ever since. And we'll put it right there. And to remind us of how far from the World Series this club has been. Just want to make a note of something here before we get going. There. So, before we get going on the Red Sox, and I spend the rest of the day, or the rest of the hour on it, I would like to make a couple of comments about football and one about basketball. Two about basketball, real quick. First of all, the Patriots versus the Green Bay Packers, was a pretty darn good game. And I tell you what, Bill Belichick got the defense rolling, and I think he was darn close to pulling an upset there. Hoyer got hurt in the first period, and Bailey Zappi came in. Now, Bill was vilified and joked about and humiliated by the media over his choice of Bailey Zappi in last year's draft, in this year's draft, I should say, last year's. They took him number 5 on the 5th round. They took him, and everybody said, "Who's he?" He's from a second-tier college. And he doesn't have a strong arm, and has Bill lost his mind? Well, the young man that went out and masqueraded as Bailey Zappi in last Sunday's game certainly changed my mind, or my mindset. I was actually, believing the media, I guess. He looked good. He wasn't afraid to eat the ball and be tackled for a loss. He threw the ball fairly well. He scurried around a couple of times. And I thought for his first game out of a small college, I thought he was good. And I'm looking forward to Sunday and seeing him again. So we'll see what happens, but I still think the Patriots are in tough shape this year. Two things on basketball, one pleasant, one rather unpleasant. Blake Griffin has been around the league for years. He's been an all-star. He's been quite the guy, quite a basketball player, defensively and offensively both. But at 33, he's noticeably slowed down. The Patriots signed him to a free agent contract. The Patriots, yeah. Celtics signed him to a free agent contract this week. And I can't be happier. This guy is a real professional. He's going to help this young team. He can do the defensive end. He can do the offensive end. He's a smart player. So kudos to the Celts for signing Blake Griffin. And by the way, he was interviewed by someone from the Herald, I believe, and he sounded very, very happy and very comfortable coming to the Celtics. So, good news. Good news all the way around. Now, we do have some unsettling news about our coach, Coach Udoka, who has been suspended for the year by the Celtics for his behavior towards women, fellow employees of the Celtics. Now, you know, the people that call in to radio talk shows, I swear they live in their mother's cellars and make up stuff as it goes along. I forget who called them the Legion of the Miserable, but I ordinarily don't pay much attention to them. I was going someplace and I threw the radio on, and there was the Sports Hub. Well, a very knowledgeable reporter from the West Coast was talking to the guys at the Sports Hub. And I don't know who he is, but they said after the interview, you know, if he says this is so, you can take it to the bank. This guy is a real insider and knows what he's talking about. Basically, what he said was, when all of this comes out, Udoka will never coach in the NBA again. He certainly will never, ever get into the Celtics games unless he has a ticket. But they never said, look, this is what he did, or this is how he acted. But they did kind of frame it that he was very aggressive in his demands and really came on way too strong in trying to coax young ladies into a friendly night on the town or whatever. And he also, this source said, that among the basketball community, the folks that are really in the know had been clued as to his behavior in the past. So you know what? You can take that for what it's worth. I don't know, and I was somewhat, well, I couldn't decide whether or not to share that with you folks, but it's out there now. I was talking to my son yesterday, and he said, Dad, that's old news now. It's out there. It's just that the Celtics cannot say one word about this because of the litigation. The league is scared to death. So the information is sort of like being in a black hole. The information went in, but it ain't coming out, if you know what I mean. So someday we might find out what happened. And in the meantime, I think that the signing of Blake Griffin is a very good move for the Celtics, and I look forward to watching them this year. So there. Now, Changing the subject abruptly, let's take a look at the Red Sox. But let me share something with you first. I've had a long-standing love affair with the Red Sox that started back in 1945, I believe, when I was either 4 or 5 years old. I would have been 4, almost 5. My grandfather took me on the train to Boston, and we went to a Red Sox game. And at that point in time, I was a fan. And I have followed the Red Sox through thick and thin ever since. And of course, once again, as with hockey, once I got a car and a license, man, I was independent. I was ready to rock and roll. I went to a lot of Red Sox games, a lot of enjoyable times in there. And you know, the Red Sox, back when I was a kid, teenager, and early 20s, they were drawing crowds like 6,000, 7,000. You could walk in there and buy a crummy seat for $1.50 and get down and sit in the box seats. And if an usher came over to you, you slipped him $50, and he said, "Have a good time, sir." "Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Yep, you can continue to sit here. No problems." And if somebody comes and says that's their seat, move to another one. So I enjoyed myself in Fenway Park a lot. And then became a big Pawtucket Red Sox fan, too, because my kids were, at this point in time, I was married with children, and we'd get down to the Paw Sox a lot and get to see and get to know some of the youngsters that came up and became Boston Red Sox players. So I still enjoy watching the Red Sox. I don't say I live and die with them anymore, but I sort of do, I guess. This year, they are 77 and 84 as we go into tonight. Last game of the year. To describe this year as a train wreck would be just about right. The pitching has collapsed. Starters and relievers both. The defense for a lot of the year would make little leaguers ashamed of themselves. The hitting has been streaky, and so many times the team really and truly performed as though they were brain dead. They had 4 or 5 games in a 2-week span where you would swear it was the Three Stooges out there playing baseball. And the Red Sox flagship station on Nesson made a 2 or 3 minute blip of all the mistakes and ran them together. It would make a grown man cry watching that. So it takes a lot of the fun out of watching it when they're playing in a half-hearted manner. So much of it looks as though they were directionless. The Red Sox hired Chaim Bloom to be their general manager. He had been involved down at Tampa Bay, and they have a template at Tampa Bay where they believe in developing youngsters in their farm system. As they grow up, they bring them to the majors. To augment the youngsters, they sign free agents, guys in their 30s, to low contracts. Guys that are out of work, but that have been decent players. And they also sign pitchers that are coming off injuries, like sore arms or sore backs or something. And they hope to rehabilitate them. And so they put Band-Aids on these old players, and mix them in with the new players, it seemed to work for Tampa Bay. Their young players really grew up and became good ball players. Tampa Bay's in the playoffs this year. The Red Sox are not. So they hired Chaim Bloom away from the Tampa Bay Rays and gave him the keys to the Red Sox. So he's trying to emulate what he did. I got news for it. It's not working. Not working at all. It's very apparent that the Red Sox stream of young players are something less than budding superstars. They really didn't perform quite as well as one would have hoped. Now, a couple of them, hey, there's some promise there. But by and large, the steady stream that's supposed to be coming up, well, the ones that are coming up aren't cutting the mustard. They cut good players and replaced them with cheap players and brought up the kids, and this chocolate milkshake was supposed to really taste good. Well, it didn't. So in one of the newspapers, they had a report card for the Red Sox players. And I said to myself, I can do this. So I did my own overlay over this. So what you're going to get is Bill Crane's opinion of the Red Sox team. Management, Chaim Bloom, F for failure. No matter what he did, he really didn't get it right. He also has an interesting personality. He talks either a cross between a Harvard doctorate and a British aristocracy gentleman, and he talks about two levels above you. He's not a former baseball player who is now working his way up the ladder towards manager or general manager. He doesn't talk baseball speak. He talks platitudes. Well, we must look at the long run here. We've got to look at things far away and bring them into focus and la, 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 la. Baloney. Talk to us like we're real people. He would never be mistaken for a guy that you'd like to go lift a few beers with down to the Legion Hall. I'll tell you that. Alex Cora, manager. D. See, I have a short fuse with Alex Cora. He's a cheat. He cheated down to Houston when they won the World Series. He was stealing signs. He came up with a very complicated system where they were spying on the other team from center field into the catcher and relaying it to the dugout, who then flashed it to the batter. And he was punished for that. However, he came to the Red Sox the following year as manager. Guess what? He was cheating again. He had television sets closely adjacent to the dugout where they could see what the pitchers were pitching, what the hitters were doing. You're not allowed to do that. He did it. And somehow or other, the Red Sox agreed they would never do that again. And the whole thing kind of got glossed over. But he came up and was trying to cheat again. I don't know. I just got a bad feeling about Alex Cora. I'm not sure they did a very good job of handling, especially the pitching staff. We'll get into that a little later. Bobby Dahlbeck. Well, I'm going to talk some more about Bobby Dahlbeck later, but I'm going to give him an F. He failed. Frenchie Cordero, D. Frenchie Cordero is a huge physical specimen. I mean, it looks like Mr. America out there. He doesn't have baseball instincts. He makes errors. He throws to the wrong bases. Has no control over the strike zone at all. But boy, he's big and well put together and looks like he could knock down buildings with a single kick. But not a baseball player. Trevor Story. Now, Story was their high-priced free agent signing last year. Hurt. Then he had family issues. Then he got hurt again. And not a good season. But when he was in there, he played well. He's a good defensive player. And he performed while he was in there. So I gave him a B. That's probably generous on my part, but maybe B- would have been better. Xander Bogaerts, A. Xander Bogaerts is a top-flight shortstop. Defensively, offensively, he's sort of like Bob Elliott was with the old Boston Braves. He was nicknamed Mr. Team, and that's what Cordero is. Bogaerts is, I'm sorry. And he's a decent human being to boot. And his teammates love him. There's no doubt that this team is Xander's team. He's the captain, and he's the leader. And I will get to him along with Bobby Dahlbeck and a couple of others here later. Alex Verdugo. Now, Alex Verdugo came over in the Betts trade when we traded Mookie out to Los Angeles. Verdugo was one of three players that came. The catcher, Wong, also came over, and they had one other infielder came over. He can't play, he can't hit. So Verdugo is kind of like the only thing we got that's functional in the Betts deal. So I gave him a B-. He's evolving into a fair to good line drive hitter. He goes to the opposite field. He can run the bases, and he's not exactly the greatest outfielder in the world, but he's not bad either. He's functional in left field. And he doesn't have the strongest arm in the world, but left field is a short field. He can live out there. And he doesn't hurt them with his arm from left field. So all in all, Verdugo is a major league outfielder. Probably on a good team, he'd probably be the fourth outfielder. But on the Red Sox, he's a second or third outfielder. Not a bad player. Kiki Hernandez, hurt all year. C, and I was being generous. They just re-signed him to a $10 million contract. I don't know why. I don't think there was anybody beating down the door to get him at the end of the season and signed him to a free agent contract. So why they did this, I don't know. J.D. Martinez, C-. Was a great hitter, and was is the operative word here. He got old all of a sudden. He couldn't, towards the end of the season, he had trouble hitting a basketball if it was thrown up to him. He looked out of sorts. I wonder if there's some back problems or what, because he wasn't, I don't know, didn't look like he was swinging freely like the old J.D. Martinez. He's gone. He's a free agent at the end of the year. The Red Sox will not offer him a contract, I'm sure. So then we get to a couple of incompletes. Christian Arroyo, Jarren Duran, Rob Refsnyder, Jeter Downs, that was the infielder I was trying to think of, and Connor Wong. He also came over in the Betts trade. We'll talk about those guys later, but they get incomplete for a mark on their report card. Nathan Eovaldi, the pitching staff, was the best out of the bunch, more or less. I gave him a B-. He missed some time this year, low back problems, and he has lost something off his fastball. Nick Pivetta is the only one of the Sox to make all the starts, and he ended up, I think, at 11 and 12, I think was his mark. I gave him a B-. He had a great first half and fell apart in the second half. Rich Hill, at the age of 42, had a great first half, so-so second half, but he pitched well, very well. Not very well, he pitched very well at times, but he went out there and he pitched honestly. I gave him a C, and I probably should have gone a little bit better than that. Let's give him a B. He turned in a beautiful game here last week. Michael Walker, now, he was the ace of the staff. I think he ended up 11 and 2 or 12 and 2, I forget which. He had been hurt, and they nursed him back. He was one of the cheap signings for a year, and it really worked out well. He had a bad shoulder. It took a long time to get himself straightened out, but he's pitched well. I gave him an A. Tanner Houck, I gave him a B. He pitched well out of the bullpen, but you could tell there was something wrong, and sure enough, they shut him down, and he is going to have, I think, a hip operation that's going to hopefully straighten him out during the off season. Garrett Whitlock, I left him alone at B+. Again, here's another player. Tanner Houck and Garrett Whitlock, the Red Sox youngsters of the future, along with Bayo. But they never made it clear to either player whether you're a relief pitcher or starter. Now, if you're a starter, you need to get stretched out so you can pitch at least 5 innings, but hopefully 6 or 7. A relief pitcher has to come in and be able to throw right from the get-go. Usually in 1 or 2 inning spurts, he's got to be effective, pitching hard right away. They train differently. They never made it clear to either one of these guys whether they're a bullpen relief pitcher or whether they're a starter. And as a result, they floated him back and forth. Then they both end up on the injured list. Great. John Schreiber, who won a job in spring training. 28-year-old that's been in the minors for quite a while. He came up and he pitched well. He got an A+. He's a sidearm right-hander, relief pitcher, and his stuff is really it's brutal on a right-hander. Brutal. Cutter Crawford, well, he pitched well in spurts. He's a kid. He's got some work to do. He's got to have another pitch. I gave him a C. Matt Strom, not wild about him. I gave him a C. I don't like him. Ryan Brazier, I like him. He's got a good arm, but he seems to go into a fog occasionally, and you expect him to come in for an inning and be tough, and he comes in and he can't even find the plate. He couldn't find it with a flashlight, and as a result, his lack of control really hurts him. So that's a rather bleak outlook for the Sox. Now, I would like to talk a little bit more about some of the individual players. I'll start off with Alex Cora, the manager. Alex Cora is perceived as doing a good job. Alex Cora, seeing what the front office is doing, the confusion in the front office, and the fact that they're very reluctant to sign some of their players. We'll talk about that with Xander Bogaerts, and we'll talk about that also with Devers. By the way, I didn't give Devers a mark, probably a B. So we'll talk about that some more. But the Red Sox management has been in no hurry to sign Bogaerts. He's a free agent, and no hurry to talk to Rafi Devers about a long-term extension. Now, Devers loves Bogaerts. They are tight. They're great friends. And Rafi Devers, Bogaerts took him under his wing when he came up. And Devers thinks the world of Bogaerts, and he's obviously hurt by the way the Red Sox are treating Bogaerts by not offering him a decent extension. They gave him an insult instead of an offer. So Cora's got to be looking at that, and he's got to be saying to himself, oh, this is great. I have to manage the team for a couple more years. I got a long-term contract. I'm going to lose Bogaerts, and then after that, Devers is going to walk. Holy cow. This doesn't really bode well for building a great team. I would not be surprised to see Cora very quietly, his agent, negotiate with another team and see if there's any interest in signing Cora. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if Cora resigned and jumped ship and accepted another offer. We'll see. But I think it could happen. I know if I were in Cora's position, I'd really be wondering to myself, do I want to stay with this organization? So let's go to Xander Bogaerts now. 11 years with the Red Sox. Model player, just serious, always looking to improve, good hitter, good fielder, very good hitter, very good fielder, total team player, smart, runs the bases well, interacts with the public very well, and is very popular with his teammates. They love him. What's not to like here? I mean, really. Now, they signed Cora to a team-friendly deal. I believe it was either 4 years or 5 years at $20 million a year. So that's in its final season. And Cora they offered to extend him 1 year. That was in spring training. And it was just an insulting thing to say to the guy. So they haven't offered him anything. And they keep saying, the stuff out of the Red Sox front office is, well, Xander has a decision to make. What? They haven't made him an offer. What do you mean he's got a decision to make? He doesn't have a piece of paper in front of him, a contract with a number on it. The Red Sox have a decision to make. Are you going to give him a realistic contract, or are you going to play games with him? So far, they're playing games with him. I'm convinced Xander Bogaerts going to walk. They could offer him the moon now. And I think his pride has been hurt, his feelings have been hurt, and he's saying to himself, see you later. Don't want any more of this. Rafi Devers, a burgeoning star in his own right. Good hitter. Erratic in the field a little bit, but he makes the difficult plays and boots easy ones. I think he needs to mature to the next level. But a world of potential. So far, so good. He's a good kid. Well liked by his teammates. But he thinks the world of Bogaerts. And if Bogart walks, I guarantee you the following year, Rafi Devers will walk too. So there you go. Third base and shortstop, gone. If you were Alex Cora, you really want to face that? Or would you rather go to the San Diego Padres or the Philadelphia Phillies, teams that are trying to win the World Series, and manage them? Don't know. I know what I would think. I'd say, when's the first bus out of town? When can I jump ship? We'll see what happens. It's going to be a very interesting off-season. Very interesting. And Bogaerts is not the only guy that's going to jump ship. We'll talk about a couple more that are on their way out, too. Mike Walker. Now, they signed him as a sore-armed, sore-shouldered pitcher. They worked with him. They rehabilitated him. He put him in the starting rotation, and I believe he's 12-2 on the season. He was their best pitcher. So he's been around, okay? Then he was hurt. Now he's back all in one piece again. This guy is going to take a damn good offer to sign him. They're not going to be able to say, oh, here's some crumbs off the edge of the table. No, they're going to have to make a serious effort. Something like, I don't know, 3 years, $60 million. I would say that's probably a starting point someplace. The guy's a good pitcher. So, will they do that? No, because they're going to look at the sore shoulder and say, oh boy, oh, jeepers creepers, I don't know. I'm not going to take a chance on him staying injury-free, because they're cheapskates, the Red Sox. That's what they're morphed into with this new approach. So I think Walker, their best pitcher, in the long run, is going to walk. He's going to go for... The Yankees are going to make him a big offer. Someone will make him an offer he can't refuse. And it will not be the Red Sox. I'll tell you that. Nate Eovaldi. Now, for the last 3 years, Nate Eovaldi has been their best pitcher. He's going to want to get paid now. They're not going to pay him. He's going to walk. They're going to look at him and say, you were hurt again, lost time again, you throw hard. I'm not willing to take a chance on you. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll sign you to a deal, and we'll give you some incentives. If you hit 15 wins, if you hit 17 wins, you get more money. Eovaldi can do better than that. I think Eovaldi's gone. Now, Rich Hill, at the age of 42, he'll be 43 next year. The Red Sox will sign him. He lives locally. He wants to pitch for the Red Sox. If they got a couple of $1 million to throw his way to keep the family in cornflakes and Campbell soup, then he'll sign with the Sox. I don't see anybody raiding the pantry here and signing Rich Hill away from the Red Sox. Tommy Pham, who they picked up in a trade late in the season, 2/3 of the way through the season. Hard-nosed player, average ability, plays intensely, and is a rah-rah guy. He's going to want to get paid. The Red Sox are not going to pay him. He's gone, in my estimation. J.D. Martinez is gone. We talked about that. His swing is gone. He's getting long in the tooth. He'll catch on with someone who will say, I'll sign him, cheap contract, see if he works out as a DH, and take a chance. It won't be the Red Sox, though. Eric Hosmer, they picked him up in a trade, played a little bit of first base and got hurt. He's gone. The Red Sox got him for free. San Diego is still paying Hosmer's contract, a huge contract, by the way. So they could have a Hosmer next year. They wouldn't have to pay him. San Diego paid him. But Hosmer kind of clogs things up. His best days are way gone. Then Matt Barnes. They overpaid him. And he is not a steady performer. He'll have 3 good relief appearances and then 4 stinkers. And he's been like that his whole career. I'd like to think they'll move him, but I don't think they will. I don't think anybody really is interested in picking up his contract. And then we got Chaim Bloom. Nobody's going to take him. But we got some bright lights on the Red Sox. Few and far between, but Trevor Story is a very skilled infielder, and if he gets past the injury stage, he's a good ball player. Verdugo is a decent outfielder. Tanner Houck and Garrett Whitlock, young pitchers. They're both going to have operations in the offseason. John Schreiber. All 3 of those young pitchers with some future. Rob Refsnyder, who they signed as a utility ball player, and they've given him a chance to play. He's played well. They'll keep him. And Connor Wong, who they got in the best trade, is growing up. He's a good number 2 catcher. And Reese McGuire, that they picked up, had a good season. Batted over 300 and did well. So it's interesting that the Red Sox, two mysteries. They had a catcher, Christian Vasquez. Had him for 6 or 8 years. He was having a decent season. And they dumped him for 2 nobodies. Absolute nobodies. Just to get rid of him. Why? Someone was loyal to the cause, and then they turned around, and they did the same thing with Kevin Plawecki, their backup catcher, who was just a great teammate, good defensively, poked in the hit every once in a while, and just a darn good all-around guy. And they dumped him unceremoniously before the end of the season. Like, go away, you bother me, kid. There is no heart and soul to the Red Sox organization. They don't care about people's feelings. You're just, hey, get you if I blow my nose in you and then I throw you away. The other mystery that I'd like to talk to you about is Bobby Dalbec. Last year he had 25 home runs and was red hot the second half of the year. He's excellent at third base. He's okay at shortstop. That's where he played in college. Okay at second. He can handle first base. He's a great kid. But something's missing. The Sox this year, when they brought him up, when the season started, they said, instead of saying, he's our regular first baseman, they said, well, we're going to use him against some left-handers. And he had a good spring training, too. I don't understand what they're doing with Dalbec. But if they're trying to destroy his confidence, I think they're doing a darn good job. The other thing, too, the Red Sox have 2 hitting coaches, not 1. They get 2. You mean to say that these 2 hitting coaches can't work with Dalbec and get his swing back to where it needs to be? I mean, it is impossible for me to believe that Dalbec is as bad as he looks sometimes. These guys aren't working with him. At least I don't think they are. And the Red Sox have a way of doing that with young players. Look at Andrew Benintendi. Well, they wanted him to undercut the ball, go for home runs. Changes his swing. He was a line drive hitter. Changes his swing to uppercut the ball. Well, it didn't work out. And screwed him up for a whole year. And the Red Sox said, we're trading you. And they traded him to Kansas City. Kansas City straightened him out. Traded him to the Yankees. And guess what he's doing with the Yankees? He's going to the playoffs and he's hitting .304. Yeah. Red Sox couldn't use him, though. No. Didn't like the way he swung. Yeah. They don't like the way Dalbec swings either. I don't know. I don't understand. Then they dumped Kyle Schwarber, who they picked up last year, who played well, hit a bunch of home runs. So Kyle Schwarber goes to the Philadelphia Phillies. Would you like to know what he's done so far this year? Led the National League in home runs with 44. And got a bunch of RBIs, too. Then, they didn't like Hunter Renfroe for some reason or other. Good defensively. Very strong arm. And guess what? They offloaded him for nothing. So, Hunter Renfroe so far this year, 28 home runs. Yeah. Yep. So, Hunter Renfroe, Kyle Schwarber, Andrew Benintendi, don't need him. Don't want him. So what did they get for replacements? Nothing. That's what right field and left field look like this year. A bunch of nothing out there. And center field. I don't know. It's a mysterious way the Red Sox run their business. And you know, I have never understood. By the way, Jemai Webster, now he's not a baseball player, but he's a in-between innings, or he's the guy down at field level that comes up with little tidbits like, did you know that Bobby Dolbeck's sister used to sing in a choir at the blah, blah, blah church in Wilmington, North Carolina? Oh, gee, there's a great fact, you know. Jemai doesn't add much to the show. What does he do? They had somebody before that, Garen Austin. At least she was good looking. But she did the same thing. I don't know what these sideline reporters are supposed to do, but I know that baseball has done without them for 150 years. Why we need them is beyond me. And while I'm at it, the Red Sox had a world-class television announcer in Don Orsillo. Great guy. He got a great job, too. He does the Los Angeles Dodgers games and the San Diego Padre games out on the West Coast. No reason was ever given for them not picking up his contract. No reason at all. You know what they said? We want to go in another direction. That's great. You know, you can really clarify matters when you say things like that. And we'd be neglecting our duties here if we didn't comment on Chris Sale. Now, Chris has got a huge contract, a barn burner, and when it's complete, he will have pitched practically no games at all. He's been hurt ever since. This year, he broke a rib in spring training, was it? And then fell off his bicycle in Kenmore Square. Now, I suppose people fall off bicycles in Kenmore Square all the time and break their fingers. But the interesting thing is, there are no witnesses to this. Now, the last time I checked Kenmore Square, there was always lots of people there. But nobody saw Chris Sale fall off the bicycle and have the bicycle accident. So, did he get in a fight with somebody and break his fingers? Did heaven knows what could have happened. But just one more fun event for the Red Sox here. And I don't care for the Red Sox TV and radio announcers. They're pretty bland. But you know what? In their defense, Dennis Eckersley, who's retiring, and Jerry Remy, who passed away at an early age, were the two best announcers you could ever hope to have, along with Don Orsillo. They were great. And no matter who they put behind the mics now are going to be sad. They really are not going to be able to come up to the standards that Eck and Remy and Don Orsillo did. And just as a final note, the Red Sox next to last series was against Toronto. And let's check the results of the 3 games they played here in Fenway Park this week. 9-0, 10-0, and 6-3. They lost all 3 games. A very exciting way to end up the season, by gosh, by golly. So, friends, I don't know exactly what to think about the future for the Red Sox. Money is the prime consideration. John Henry wants to cut down the money he's spending on players. And this whole thing about we're going to bring youngsters up and sign old, broken down veterans is a money grab. It's him grabbing money and saving it and paying peanuts for kids and for worn out old veterans. I don't know. I really and truly don't know what to think of the Red Sox. I don't expect great things at all. I'm going to end up with two quick things. The Cleveland Indians are the Cleveland Indians no more. They changed their name to the Cleveland Guardians, even though polls of Native Americans voted 90-10 to keep the name. They did it with the Washington Redskins. They did it with the Cleveland Indians. They said it is not an insult to us. But white guilt forced us, I guess, to change it. Well, the Guardians is a stupid name. So I suggested to myself the Naps. If you go back to the beginning of baseball, back at the turn of the 19th century, early on, Cleveland was the Naps, named after Nap Lajoie, their best player. The Cleveland Lakers, they're right there on Lake Erie. The Cleveland Rockers, they got the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland. Coyotes, Wolves, those were in good names too. And my final remark is left to the hose job that Tom Yawkey has taken from this current bunch of owners. Tom Yawkey was the owner of the Red Sox for a long time, back in the 30s up through the 70s. He was painted as being a segregationalist because he wouldn't sign a black ball player. Well, plenty of other teams weren't signing black ball players either. But yet, not one person can offer up a quotation where Tom Yawkey said anything bad about anybody. Okay? But this current administration, the John Henry regime, has removed all mention of Tom Yawkey in Fenway Park, including Yawkey Way. They renamed the street Yawkey Way, and now they've renamed it something else. There's no way that anything to do with Tom Yawkey has survived. Yet, the Tom Yawkey Foundation that he left all his money to has contributed $530 million from its inception upon his death to 2017. $530 million in the city of Boston has been given to different charities. And that was up through 2017. With the rate of his giving is well over $600 million that his foundation that he set up for the city of Boston has donated to charities. Boy, we certainly want to get his name off everything, don't we, huh? Is this current administration? Are they contributing to the betterment of the city of Boston the way Tom Yawkey did? I think you know the answer to that. And on that note, folks, I'm going to say to you, we'll talk to you in the spring when we all have spring fever, and we'll see what the Red Sox are up to then. And on that note, I want to wish you a very, very, very pleasant good day.